with me, Rabbi Patrick, who has been a longtime customer of Paid Memberships Pro, and I think we might have even done work for you before we had the membership plugin many, many years ago. And you've agreed to come on and talk a little bit about your business and what you do, and actually recap a conversation we had in person a while ago, talking about how we can help to level up your Paid Memberships Pro integration. And this one's going to get a little technical, I think, but hopefully it's useful for other people. I guess to get started, do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself or other people who might be watching in?
Sure. So my name is Rabbi Patrick Beaulier, and I am the executive director of Darshan Yeshiva. My actual sort of day-to-day role is called Programs and Strategy. So I'm focused on the vision of our organization, focused on kind of how we deliver that, and then a lot of the sort of technical type things. So I'm not involved in the day-to-day administrative aspect, but I'm sort of looking at it more big picture, and then how do we fulfill that mission. So Darshan Yeshiva is about Jewish learning for beginners and conversion to Judaism, as you can see on our website. Part of the key to that is that we're dedicated to independent Jewish spirituality online. So we have a lot of different websites. We do a lot of different things, but my primary focus is this website. We started initially, I should explain what Darshan Yeshiva, like what that phrase means. Darshan comes from the word drash, and then the word yeshiva is like a school. So a darshan is, in today's sort of world, is the person who preaches in a synagogue. Usually that's the rabbi now, but it was a separate role at one point in Jewish history. And then a yeshiva is a school. So what we were trying to do with Darshan Yeshiva initially is to create a school for lay Jewish spiritual leaders. So you have these communities that maybe have 5 Jewish families, 10 Jewish families. You're never going to have a rabbi there. You're never going to have a synagogue or a JCC. But someone needs to help with funerals. Someone needs to help with other life cycles and holidays, and Shabbat and other things. So that was the initial idea. So we created this Darshan training program, and then from there we backed out of that and created these other programs out of that content. So Torah study, Judaism for beginners, comprehensive Jewish studies. But what was funny is that for as much as we were doing that, what became more interesting to people was actually what you'll see at the bottom there, which is our conversion to Judaism program. So right now we have about 20 rabbis on our website of all denominations: conservative, reform, reconstructionist, renewal. We also have post-denominational rabbis and a secular humanistic rabbi. And what we do is we provide the platform where students and rabbis can connect for conversion to Judaism. So it's not like a click here and you become Jewish type thing.
Yeah.
It's not, an app that somehow magically...
Yeah, you just get a certificate in the mail and magically...
It's like those instant ordination programs.
Right.
Like your buddy's wedding.
Yeah.
I know, it's not like that. It's
you actually connect with a real human.
Right. It's a mentorship program. So we do provide the educational content. So if you imagine our website as being the marketplace where you meet the person, you have meet the rabbi, you have our website as essentially the school where you have the content. So we have video, audio, written assignments, things like that. But really the big thing is the mentorship. And then at the end of your learning, which is usually about 10 months, you get together with your rabbi in person for the rituals that come afterwards in conversion. So we have all kinds of cool stuff on our website explaining how all of that works. But the way that we use Paid Membership Pro ultimately to this conversation is as the subscription service to the content. Initially, when we created Darshan training, we had the different programs, and so for each program you had a membership. So the Darshan training was a membership, Torah study was a membership. Right. So it's not like a membership where you have certain amounts of content. Our levels were very specific.
Yeah.
And then when we created Darshan training, when we created the conversion program, we created an intense number of levels because we have different payment amounts. We have, if you do particular programs within conversion, you can have more education down the road. So then that creates more levels. Rabbis will work with certain students, but not others. So we had to create levels for that. So we're in a place where if you're a rabbi and you will accept all students from everywhere in any payment style, one rabbi is going to equal something like 6 levels.
Right.
Multiply that times 20 rabbis and growing. That's an intense number of levels.
So definitely, like, I guess a couple of notes that I took here. One is that it's awesome that, like, from a business perspective, you were able to pivot or at least focus on something. I have dogs in the background, of course. To focus on the conversion program, which maybe wasn't something you were thinking about or focused on initially when you set up the site, but it became apparent, like, hey, this is, where the demand is, and this is a demand we can, fulfill. And you were able to, use your same website basically to focus on that product. So I think that's pretty neat from a business perspective. And then on the technical side with Pay Memberships Pro, you were an early adopter, and you definitely took advantage of, some of our advice in how to get around a limitation of Pay Memberships Pro, which is that 1 membership level per user. So there's, we're working on having that restriction, not there anymore. But basically with Paid Memberships Pro, there's an assumption across the core plugin and all of the add-ons, and really just like human thought, like a lot of times when you break that assumption, someone has 2 membership levels, it makes all of the decision trees later, like, well, what do you do in this case? It makes it more complicated. So Pay Memberships Pro, typically a user can only have 1 membership level at a time, but at the same time, membership levels are handy as a way to create payment plans, which I think you use them for. So some people are paying annually or monthly or quarterly, or over a certain amount of time. And then also membership levels are good for, I think you guys use that as a workaround for having different rabbis, right? So you can keep track of which rabbi someone selected. It's under a membership level. And then also like the add-on content. So, and I don't know if you do like any kind of combination. Sometimes it's say like there's 2 courses, A and B, but someone wants both. Then there's a third level, A plus B. And so on smaller sites with like, a smaller amount of content, going from 1 level to 10 levels is manageable. I think on your website, the way it went, going from 1 level to now over 120 is harder to manage, and you're actually reaching like the technical limits. There's bugs that come in place when the levels get above 120 that like we haven't experienced before. So it's definitely in a lot of these cases, like creating a new membership level is kind of just the easiest non-developmental way to get stuff done. And so we often recommend it. But in this case, like you're kind of building something that's a little more complicated. And so I think you have quite a bit of add-ons and customization going on already. But I think we can do better if we kind of step back and think about some of these things that are levels that maybe don't have to be levels. And so that's what I talked with you about before face to face that we can go over again. And I think the main thing that's going to save you levels basically and complexity is doing something different with with the rabbis. So let me try to find so I'm on your website now. People can see we've been here. And if I go convert to Judaism, step one is actually choose a program. So I guess let's walk through the steps really quick to rehash, and then we'll figure out how we can possibly like change this workflow.
So this is the beginning of where complication starts for us. So this is having to do with cost. So if you just want to convert to Judaism, we have a scholarship level. Then we have a middle tier where you are given more content, and then the mitzvah level, the highest level, is financially the most value added. And what also happens is that by charging more, we're able to pay our rabbis more, so it offsets the cost of a student that's at the scholarship level. So that's why we have 3 levels.
Right.
How do we make this program financially viable so that we can actually lower the cost to as many people as possible?
Okay. So yeah, I think that these are actual levels because you describe them as, well, they have different prices for one, and then which is not always, like, sometimes you can adjust the price in a different way, but they have different prices, and then they also give different level of access, and then internally you track them differently. So it's probably useful for you on the back end when you export members, like show me only members of the mitzvah level, or maybe show me only the scholarship level, because you have to do something specifically with those members.
Tricky though, because so let's take, you've highlighted mitzvah level there at the top. So let's say we have one rabbi who only took mitzvah level students, because that was the one that was financially most viable for them. So rabbis who in big cities, for example, can only really take those mitzvah level students. A rabbi who maybe takes scholarship level, it could be someone who is retired. I apologize for the noise in the background.
Sure.
A scholarship level, a rabbi who might take a scholarship level is a rabbi who's retired. This is just an extra little job for them, or they just enjoy it. It's fun. So they're not really thinking about the money. But let's just say that there's a rabbi who only takes mitzvah level students. So you have one rabbi at one level, but then we have the 2 payment plans, right? So one is annual, like you said, and then one is a month for 10 months, and it's a billing limit. So you do an amount of money every month for 10 months, and then the billing stops.
Right.
You have unlimited access for life for free to the content that's available. So one rabbi just with one level, you have to make 2 levels. So then when we go to export, we can't just export all mitzvah level or all high level or all scholarship, because every level is then broken down to Rabbi Cohen mitzvah level paid monthly. I can see all of those, and then I have to go and do all the annuals for that, and then manually on a spreadsheet put it all together and look at it.
Yeah. I think the payment plans we can tackle. Like I said, on simpler websites, when you're not having lots of combinations like you do, sometimes it makes sense to just make payment plans a level. But it's also possible to use custom code through Register Helper, which requires a little bit of code, but you basically add a field at your checkout that says, which payment plan do you want?
Right. It'd be ideal for us, because that would cut down on half the code, right, or half the levels right there. Yeah,
exactly. So if we add that field to checkout, and then another bit of custom code that would have to be developed saying, hey, depending on which radio option they choose, adjust the price of the membership. And that would just have to be hard coded. So you could code it with math. So you could say, make it 1/10 of the price of the level. And that way, if you change the levels in the future, you don't have to change your code. But you also could hard code it, and just if you ever change the pricing on your level, you got to remember to change your custom code as well. But yeah, that's pretty straightforward. And that's actually almost the kind of thing that we would offer in the membership forms. We'd be like, hey, give us a day, and one of our people will code that up for you. But yeah, it would take a good PM Pro developer, at least a half hour to set up. And in addition to we're going to keep going. There's a lot of moving pieces. So definitely the recommendation for you is to get a developer to hire out for, quite a few hours to put it together. And we'll help contact someone on our developers page to hook you up with. But okay, so far I think these 3 levels are your real levels. So in the future version of, Darshan Yeshiva, these are still levels. Let's convert the payment plans to an option. There's actually some added complication we'll get back to where, the payment plan, the levels are per rabbi, but the payment plans are all rabbis offer the same payment plans. Is that right? They all have to opt into the 10-month billing?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can't, as a rabbi, say, I'm only going to take a student who will pay a certain amount in the
Okay.
student,
Okay.
right?
All right. Good.
One or the other.
Okay. Cool. So, all right. So we have levels, we have payment plans, and now we have to figure out, let's see. So step 2 is choose a rabbi.
Right. So let's say you're a student, a potential student. You go on the website, you say, okay, well, I can afford scholarship. Let's say. Then you look at all of our rabbis who are available.
Yep. And you can filter by scholarship level here. So I'm only show me ones that accept the scholarship level. And then you probably also would go by region, right? So I'm in the Northeast.
Yeah. Now, the only issue is that we don't have a way to filter down like scholarship,
right,
like more than one
thing at a time, right?
Yeah.
So okay. Yep.
Not yet. But.
Yeah, and that like the web development UI term for that is called like faceted search, where you can select multiple factors at the same time.
Right.
And that's something that could be developed, or you could potentially get, quote unquote, for free using plugins that exist, depending on how we like organize what a rabbi is. So for instance, I think these are pages that you build manually, correct? And then they have a level. Yeah.
We're using something called blog and blog to
okay. Okay. So like another couple options for this that come to mind. One is to use like our member directory and profile add-on to, this feels like a directory and a profile. So that add-on has some tools where you can designate like a rabbi level, and anyone who's in that level becomes part of the directory. And then you can code custom meta content per rabbi that they have to fill out and would, pre-populate their directory pages. Sure. So that's a possibility. And I guess what's cool about that possibility, and maybe something to think about, is you could potentially make that rabbi level public. And so, when you bring new rabbis on, like, I don't think you charge them up front. I think they get like a % of the price of the students, but it at least could be an application process. So, check out for this free level, and they would fill out all their content. And it would automatically, they become a user of the rabbi level, and kind of the coding of the membership directory add-on would build these pages automatically. Okay. Now, if you did that, like we'd have to customize it for like to recreate your filtering and search. And we've definitely helped people have a kind of faceted search where they can search by multiple fields. But it would be custom development, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and so let's say you find a rabbi like Rabbi Jeff Gale or Rabbi Sandy Zisser. So you click on their profile, you read a little bit about who they are, kind of what their approach is, because this is a very concierge type of thing that we provide. Yeah. So it's really making sure that you find the right rabbi for you. Mm-hmm. So you go through these different options. I won't get into the religious aspects, but you sure. Find a rabbi who you feel kind of lines up with what you're looking for in a rabbi. And then the third step is to then fill out an application. Okay. We vet manually. We actually, on the phone, on Skype, will vet every potential student we have. So what happens is that you go to this third page. We have a disclaimer there at the top about what this is about. Here's what we do and don't do. Yep. This is the Wufoo form. So then you just go and you find the rabbi that you were looking at. You say what program you want to be in. And, fortunately with Wufoo, if you choose like Rabbi Brian, for example, or Rabbi Zisser, it'll filter below, Okay. So you set that up in Wufoo forms. Yep. Yeah. Now, what would be great is if we're doing faceted search, it'd be wonderful to be able to have something where it's like, click here, like on a rabbi's profile, click here to now, apply to work. It would just automatically select that. Yeah. Yeah. And it populates into either this Wufoo form. We use Wufoo because we then use a CRM that interacts well with Wufoo. So, yeah. And Wufoo's been good to us, so we have no complaints. Okay. But that's kind of the next step. So it's very manual. Like technologically, you're not guided very well through the process of applying, right? It's not necessarily intuitive. Yep. And so then once people apply here, you get in touch with them by email and maybe phone, and then at some point give them a link to the correct level to check out for. Correct. And
Can they stumble upon the levels by themselves, or no? Probably not.
No.
Okay.
No, not for conversion. For any
oh, okay. All right.
Like comprehensive or Darshan for a study, it's just like any other website or PMO powered website.
We have like a new add-on, like an approvals add-on that could along with like Register Helper could potentially replace some of this. But I think if you're happy with Wufoo, like especially considering like how it integrates with the CRM, which may not happen for PM Pro, like we should try to keep this application page. I'll take a note here, like auto selecting Rabbi, you might be able to do with JavaScript. So this is like just standard web development. But if you said, like Rabbi equals Shafir, or, some identifier, you could use JavaScript to like say, hey, did I see a parameter? Oh, okay. Look for this drop down and auto select it. And yeah, so that might be code that you could just put into this page. Yeah, that's not WordPress related at all, but might just help the process. Because once you do that, you would know this link and you could then drop that link onto this page. Excuse me. Yeah, so I think there is potential to kind of like put this form in WordPress, but like since it's working, and I think, and in the for the sake of kind of limiting the scope of work I'm going to recommend for you, we can leave this here and then just assume that's the process. And you're probably already, you're either just hiding the membership levels, or there are ways to programmatically make it so like you can't sign up for a membership level without an invite code or a discount code or something like that. That if it is a problem that people are, stumbling upon things and checking out before they're supposed to, you can use code to.
We're very lucky in that way. The only problem we've ever had is someone signing up for, let's say, they go through the conversion vetting process. And we send them the link to register. They'll register, and they won't understand the concept of the levels, right? Like they don't understand you pay more to get more. And so what they'll do is they'll be like, okay, well, I'm at the scholarship level, let's say, for conversion. Oh, but now I want to buy Torah study. And it's like, that's not a separate thing. So then they'll accidentally kick themselves out of their program.
Right.
So we manually say, okay, no, like, let me fix that for you. Because they didn't understand from the beginning that they just paid for a more expensive program so that they get that stuff.
Yeah.
We want that ability to hype customers. And the unfortunate thing, we don't want to create several different checkout systems to resolve that problem. Like they just become a nightmare. So that's where we struggle with that.
Okay.
But that's a rare problem. So, that happens maybe 3 times a year. So it's not even.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, there are problems like that, and they come up and it's like they're kind of rare and there's a manual fix for it. Or a lot of, kind of another example for people, a lot of people worry about people taking advantage of free trials or like lower cost trials. And it seems like some industries are like more prone to people taking advantage of those things and they need more help. But in general, like we found, like don't spend thousands of dollars building the system to like cross-reference credit card address information to make sure someone does, checks out more than once. Because one, like it costs a lot of money, and maybe the manual solution is just to keep an eye on things. And when that happens, kick them off and send them their money back, kind of a thing. And then two, like for every like one of those cases where you imagine like, oh, if someone used the same credit card, let's not allow them to take the trial. You're like, oh, but what about this guy who's buying it for his 2 employees and he happens to use the same credit card? So that's a totally different use case. But yeah, that's like a good thing to keep in mind is sometimes there's like these problems that they happen rarely and they have like a human manual workaround, and like that's good enough. And when it becomes a problem, then, look into automating it. I want to quick circle back to the rabbis because I guess one example or one option I mentioned is the directory and profile plugins and making rabbis users with a membership level. And I'm actually not sure that that's the best use case for this, like that or solution. And and there's a lot of things that could push it in that way. Like if you want your rabbis to be able to log in, or you have content that like on the site just for rabbis, or, ways to share information with them through the website, then yeah, like it might make sense to have a rabbi level anyway for other reasons. And so that would also map to this. Another option, and I would put both of these out there and then also let whatever developer that you end up working with kind of decide on their own, whether he or she wants which path they want to go. They'll look into it deeper to figure out, what's a good solution. But another possible solution that I shared with you before was to create a custom post type. So a rabbi custom post type. And so in WordPress, there's posts and pages, and those are post types. And then like some plugins like WooCommerce adds a product custom post type. And if you have a developer, you can create whatever post type you want. And so I think that would work really well, because the way and you're using some tool, you would have to like rebuild some of these tools that you're using to like build the directory. But you would, if a rabbit was a custom post type, then you could add taxonomies, which are like categories. So like region would be a taxonomy, and these are the different regions that rabbi could be in. Student level would be a taxonomy, and denomination would be a taxonomy. And so you can imagine on the back end of WordPress, you would say like new rabbi, just like you do new post. And then the right sidebar, you would check their region, student levels, and denominations. And then you would add a title, a featured image, a description. And then some of this other, well, some of these are taxonomies, and maybe there's some other like description information that's specific to every rabbi, or, so that's like user meta fields that the developer could add. So in the back end, you'd have a form to add these, and then it would kind of automatically generate these pages. So you could set up basically what amounts to like, the archive page for your blog shows all the blog posts with featured images, and you can filter by category. You would build the same setup for your rabbi CPT, where it shows all rabbis with their featured images, and you could filter by the taxonomies that you built. So I think that would probably make managing rabbis, and especially as you add more, like a lot easier. And then the other bonus that you get is that's a structured object inside like the WordPress database. And so your WordPress checkout, like, or PM Pro checkout, could have a drop down or some kind of hidden field, because maybe you're only sending people links and you don't want them to be able to change a checkout, but some kind of field like which rabbi did you choose? Right. And then it would save that value when they check out. So when a member checks out, they would have the level, which is like the 3 pricing options, and kind of content options, mitzvah, scholarship, and the middle one. And then the payment plan would be like an option at checkout that would potentially adjust the price. And then rabbi would be another option at checkout that would be preset based on the link that you generate. And like the list of possible rabbis, it could look up the database and look into CPTs for like, what are the quote unquote published rabbis, in the system. And I feel like that might be the one, that's like a pretty decent way to manage your rabbis. And 2, you get some stuff for free, like I said. So, you'd have to, you have like, a certain design that you'd have to recreate, but, a competent WordPress developer would just be able to say, oh, like I'm creating the archive page for the rabbi CPT and I want it to look this way. And then that category search, like WordPress default has a way to, have a sidebar of categories that you click on, but there's also a plugin called like WP Faceted Search. And I'd have to look into that, but that would either automatically work, and your sidebar would be super duper. You could select multiple things at once, and it like through Ajax, like filters on the fly. Or I think with CPTs, there might be a little bit of development you have to do to wire it up for WP Faceted Search. But something like that should be possible for a WordPress developer to build for you.
And we tried WP Faceted Search on our own.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We tried to put it together, and the problem is just really a developer needed to do it.
Oh, okay.
So we kind of gave up, but I think, we are more and more embracing that we need developers to come in and work on this stuff, and not, us sort of cobbling together plugins and hoping for the best. So, so definitely, I like the direction you're going in, and definitely we're going to need someone who wants to work on that stuff to do it for us.
Yeah. And then I think the other thing you'll need development support for then is transferring updating your existing users to the new system. Right. So at some point, there'd be a staging site where you're testing out all the new functionality and Rabbis or CPTs instead of subblogs. And you have, 3 levels plus all the add-ons instead of hundreds of levels. And then when you push that new site live, you're going to have a bunch of existing users who have these random levels. And you'll probably want to run a script that says, look up all the members, see what level they're in,
right?
Move them to a different level, set the meta fields the way they're supposed to be. So that's an added complication since you have an existing site that you're going to update and quite a few existing customers. Right. I think in some cases, you definitely could just manually update the existing users, but I'm pretty sure that won't be feasible for you. You'd want to help doing that.
Yeah.
So I guess, so those are some recommendations on how you could convert or handle the Rabbis to kind of limit the number of levels that you're keeping track of.
Yes.
And then I think maybe we could talk a moment about some of the add-ons. So they're called mini classes. Or there are a few different kinds of classes, right? Or
yeah, so many classes. We're actually using a different payment system for that.
Okay.
We wanted to have just a downloadable content tool.
Okay.
So
sure.
You find one little thing that you like, and we use TinyPass for it.
Okay.
And that's kind of the idea there. These are actually something that trying to support multiple payment systems is such a hassle that we're considering taking these mini classes, dumping them into pre-existing levels, and no longer essentially running that business.
Okay. Yeah. Just repurposing the content to boost up sales of your existing memberships. Yeah. That's a good option. Cool. If you were going to keep this in PM Pro, our add-on packages is good for this kind of thing where you purchase for one fixed amount access to a single page. That probably would work kind of similar to how you're using the TinyPass.
Yeah, and we had thought about also creating a free level with this content, and then trying to see if people would then want to go to other levels. But when we, just as general feedback to people who are starting membership-based websites, for us, free was a bad idea. It was just not worth it. When we first started Darshan Yeshiva, we had a free level where you could check out 2 or 3 pieces of content.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do Darshan training, right? Because that was the original idea.
Yeah.
And the conversion rate was something like 0.3%. I mean, it was. We may be just one particular type of program, but if I could speak to myself in the past, I would say don't bother.
Okay. Yeah. I know that it's good advice for a lot of sites to have some kind of free offering to collect email addresses, just to bring people into your system, and then you can market to them by email. But I think you make a good point that depending on what you're really trying to do, you might become beholden to your free users, and you have to generate content for them, or you have to handle the support for them. And then you're spending so much time on them. And if the conversion rate isn't that great, it's kind of a waste.
Well, we're obsessed with customer service. I mean, we will bend over backwards to make sure that our students are getting what they need. And so when you have students who are just checking things out and they want the free content and all that, we're not able, because we have that large influx of students who are just kind of trying things out and all of that, we're not able to provide customer service on the level that we want to everybody. So unfortunately, we just had to say, you know what, we can't help you.
Yeah.
And that's where the downloadable classes idea came from, because it was well,
self-help.
What if we just gave people something that's pretty easy, right? You click a button, you pay for it, it's yours, whatever. But even that has its own obstacle. So
okay. So, but you had Do you have other membership levels that we need to think about a way to keep in paid memberships pro, while we convert the conversion programs and choose Rabbi? Is it on the homepage? Yeah. No.
We have them. We have these sort of what we call premium programs, and we only call them premium because they're not like the mini classes.
Okay.
You'll have one premium program that has something like 140 study units in it, right? So it's pretty in-depth stuff. But those give us no trouble. Those are not an issue at all. So it's not not something getting in too much. But.
Cool. All right. So it sounds good. Do you have other questions or special features or things we should talk about? Okay.
Only thing I can say is definitely, you guys and ladies at Paid Memberships Pro. I mean, you built Darshan Yeshiva, so I'm eternally grateful for the software that you made, and so thank you very much for that.
Thanks.
For anyone who wants to get some high quality beginner level Jewish learning, please check out Darshan Yeshiva. You can email us. Like I said, we're really big on customer service, so feel free to email us, call us. We'll answer any questions that you have. And in some cases, we've even told people not to work with us, just because we really want to make sure that people are getting what they need. So, please, contact us, and one of our many rabbis or cantors or educators will be, your success coach, for lack of a better word.
That's interesting. It's interesting, like being honest about when it makes sense not to work with them. We're starting these video consultation calls, and in real life, when I do these consultations, probably 1 out of 10 at least, the answer is to not use Paid Memberships Pro. And we're honest. We're like, hey, you should go use this platform. It's better. So it's going to be a test on me when that comes up on the ones I'm recording to actually publish it on our website. Here's a reason to go use a competing product, but I think it's good. If the customer isn't a good fit, you don't want that customer. And so what I'll do is I'll write up my notes. We'll share them with the video. I'm going to hand them off to you. The recap of trimming things down to 3 levels, using custom code for the payment plans, converting rabbis to probably a CPT with taxonomies, but potentially like its own membership level with user meta. And then, a few of the tips on how that development would need to go, and how to connect it to your Wufoo form. And then, a couple ideas on faceted search. You tried WP faceted search, but if that, product is still active, it might just need a developer to do it. But definitely we've hand coded faceted search type things before. I'll hand that off to you. I'll also reach out to our developers and find one that would be a good fit and hand off the same checklist to them. And so what's good is typically when we hand them a checklist like that and they have contact with us to ask us any questions, like you kind of skip the first step of, you don't have to have this call with them. You're already on call 2, 3, 4, 5 with them. Hopefully, and hit the ground running and save a bit of money in terms of like the pre-work with them. So, yep, we'll publish some of that also with the video, and hopefully this is useful to other people who, have a similar level of complexity in the classes and options that they're offering, and they can get some ideas on how to use development to simplify it and stick with WordPress and Paid Memberships Pro. So, Thanks again, Patrick, for your time. We'll be in touch. All right. Bye.